When heaven touches earth, it does so with a specific purpose, tailored to the time and the people. In our last video, we looked at the world-renowned miracles of Fatima and Guadalupe. But the story doesn't end there. Beyond the most famous shrines are other, deeply pivotal encounters that reshape the spirit of entire nations. Today, we're exploring more Marian apparitions, where the message was uniquely woven into the culture and the historical trials of the day. From a silent presence in the heart of a famine, to a timely intervention during a period of religious upheaval, and these are 5 more Marian apparitions you need to know. Our first stop is the village of Knock in County Mayo, Ireland. The year is 1879. To understand why this apparition is unique, you first have to understand the silence. On a pouring, rainy night in August, 15 villagers, ranging from a 5-year-old boy to a 75-year-old woman, witnessed something impossible. Against the gable wall of the parish church, a brilliant light broke through the rain. They saw 3 figures: St. Joseph, St. John the Evangelist holding a book, and the Virgin Mary, eyes raised toward heaven. Mary didn't say a word. In an age of long prophecies, Knock remained a silent apparition. The message was a visual tableau, silent imagery. Behind the figures stood an altar with a lamb and a cross, surrounded by angels. Why the silence? In 1879, Ireland was on the brink of another great hunger. The potato crops were failing again, and the land war was reaching a fever pitch. Families were being violently evicted from their homes by landlords. The Irish people were being silenced by poverty and oppression. By appearing in silence, Mary was a participant in their quiet suffering. The apparition was perfectly Irish in its resilience. To a people whose faith was tied to the Eucharist as a form of national identity, the image of the lamb on the altar was a reminder that sacrifice leads to redemption. She came to stand in the rain with them. Shortly after this event, the Land League was formed, signaling the beginning of the end for the oppressive landlord system that had gripped Ireland for centuries. In 1608, we travel to the village of Siluva in Lithuania. This is a story of a lost legacy and a faith that refused to stay buried. To understand Siluva, we have to look back several decades. During the Protestant Reformation, much of Lithuania had shifted away from Catholicism. In Siluva, the local Catholic church was closed, and its land was seized. Before the church was destroyed, the last parish priest did something desperate. He placed the church's sacred vessels and a precious image of Mary into a heavy iron-bound box and buried it deep in the ground near a large rock, hoping for a day when they could be safely recovered. Over time, the priest died, the location was forgotten, and the village became officially Calvinist. The silence was broken in 1608. A group of young shepherds tending their sheep near the old church site saw a young woman standing on a large rock, holding a child in her arms and weeping bitterly. When they told the village, the local Calvinist catechist and teacher came to the rock to scoff at them. But then he saw her too. He asked her why she was crying. She replied, "There was a time when my son was adored on this spot, but now the people plow and sow." The message sparked an immediate search. An old blind man, who remembered the old priest, pointed out the spot where the box had been buried decades earlier. When they dug it up, his sight was miraculously restored. Inside was the perfectly preserved image of Mary and the church's treasures. This event sparked a massive Catholic counter-reformation in Lithuania, leading to the construction of a new basilica and the return of the region to its Catholic roots. The apparition was deeply tied to the Lithuanian identity of the Land of Mary. By appearing on a rock in a field, literally the foundation of the earth, she spoke to a farming culture that understood the importance of the soil. Her message was about a mother's grief over a forgotten relationship. For the Lithuanians, she was a guardian of their history, physically pointing back to the buried truth of their ancestors. From the forests of Lithuania, we move to the high altitudes of the French Alps. The year is 1846, and the message here is one of the most urgent in the history of modern apparitions. Two children, 11-year-old Maximin Giraud and 14-year-old Melanie Calvat, were tending cattle on a mountain ridge. They were poor, uneducated, and barely knew their catechism. Suddenly they saw a globe of light that opened to reveal a woman sitting with her head in her hands, weeping inconsolably. She stood up and spoke to them in a mix of French and their local dialect. Her message was a stern warning about the heaviness of her son's arm. She spoke of the desecration of Sundays, men working on the day of rest, and the widespread use of her son's name in blasphemy. She warned that if people did not change, the crops would fail. Specifically, that the potatoes would rot and the grapes would wither. She famously asked the children, "Do you say your prayers well, my children?" When they admitted they hardly prayed at all, she urged them to at least say an Our Father and a Hail Mary. France was in a state of spiritual and social decay. The spirit of the age was moving towards secularism and away from the church. True to the warning, a severe potato blight struck France and Europe shortly after 1846, contributing to the Hungry Forties. Just 2 years later, in 1848, a wave of violent revolutions swept across France and the rest of Europe, toppling monarchies and creating massive social upheaval. But La Salette carries a mystery that the church struggled with for decades. Beyond the public warning about the crops, Mary gave the children secrets to be revealed in 1858. When they were finally published, the messages were so critical of the corruption within the clergy and so apocalyptic in nature that the Vatican eventually placed the writings on the Forbidden Index. Because the warning was so severe, it threatened to cause a total firestorm within the church. She appeared wearing a high, fan-like headdress and a heavy chain with a crucifix, but the crucifix was unique. It had a hammer on one side, symbolizing sin/nailing Christ to the cross, and pincers on the other, symbolizing penance/removing the nails. Only 1 year after the secrets of La Salette were to be revealed, we crossed the Atlantic to the frontier of the United States. In the woods of Wisconsin, we find the only church-approved Marian Apparition in North America, Our Lady of Champion. Adele Bryce was a young Belgian immigrant. While carrying grain to a mill in 1859, she saw a woman in dazzling white between two trees, one a maple, the other a hemlock. Adele was frightened and prayed, and the lady vanished. It took 3 sightings before the lady spoke. Mary's message was a direct command for the New World. Gather the children in this wild country and teach them what they should know for salvation. She told Adele to teach them their catechism, how to sign themselves with the cross, and how to approach the sacraments. She famously said, "Go and fear nothing, I will help you." Wisconsin was the wild country. It was a lawless, spiritually neglected frontier where immigrants were losing their faith because there were no schools or churches. In 1871, exactly 12 years later, the deadliest fire in American history, the Peshtigo Fire, ravaged the region. It killed between 1,200 and 2,500 people. As the wall of flame approached the shrine Adele had built, the local people gathered there, processing around the sanctuary with a statue of Mary. The fire burned everything to the ground for miles, leaving only the shrine and its few acres of land untouched, a literal green oasis in a blackened wasteland. In the U.S., the American dream was beginning to take root, but it was physically dangerous. Mary gave Adele a job: education. This mirrored the American pioneer spirit. If you want to save the future, you have to build it and teach it yourself. For our final stop, we travel back in time to 1594, to the high Andes of Quito, Ecuador. This is the apparition of Nuestra Señora del Buen Suceso, often translated as Our Lady of the Good Success, but more accurately meaning the good event or good ending. She appeared to Mother Mariana de Jesus Torres, a Spanish nun and one of the founding mothers of the royal convent in Quito. Mother Mariana was a mystic who took on intense penance for the sins of the coming centuries. The message was startlingly specific. Mary told Mother Mariana that at the end of the 19th century, and especially in the 20th century, there would be a total corruption of customs. She prophesied that the sacrament of matrimony would be attacked and profaned, that precious innocence would rarely be found in children, and that the clergy would fall into a period of spiritual coldness. However, she promised a good event, that when the evil seemed at its peak, she would intervene to restore the Church and the spirit of the faithful. In the 1590s, the Spanish Empire was solidifying its hold on South America. The Church was the backbone of society, yet internal struggles for power within the religious orders were rampant. Following these visions, Quito became a massive spiritual center. Mother Mariana's life became a testament to the hidden power of prayer that sustained the colony through volcanic eruptions and political instability. Followers of this devotion point to the rapid secularization and the crisis of the family in the 1900s as the direct fulfillment of the warnings given to Mother Mariana 300 years earlier. In a unique visual detail, Mary asked that a statue be made of her, holding the crozier, the staff, of the abbess in her right hand, with the keys of the convent. In the Spanish colonial hierarchy, this was a powerful legal and spiritual symbol. She was telling the nuns and the people of Ecuador that she was their direct superior and governor. According to tradition, Mary herself took her own measurement with a cord, so the statue would be her exact height. This physical closeness appealed deeply to the Latin American devotion to imaginaria, sacred imagery, making the divine feel tangible and physically present in their struggles. From the silent reign of Ireland to the prophetic cloisters of Ecuador, these 5 apparitions show a pattern. Mary appears to meet a culture exactly where it is, in its famine, its forgotten history, its revolutions, or its future crises. The message remains consistent. Heaven is watching, and there is always a path back to hope, no matter how wild the country or how corrupt the times may seem. Which of these 5 stories resonated with you the most? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to watch part 1 if you missed our look at Fatima and Guadalupe. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy these deep dives, please consider subscribing.